Welcome to today's lesson. If you've ever watched my previous video, I have explained how an IP address is being assigned by the DHCP. If you ever miss all those lessons, you can look at the bottom down here on the comment section, and you'll be able to identify all those links that you can use to revise before this lesson. In this lesson, we are going to look at the secret, or we'll look at the analogy that is behind an IP address. And after that, we will break down the IP address to a simple understanding so that you'll be able to get the main idea behind IP address. Then we'll look at behind the numbers, which is the binary language of IP address. I'll take time to explain all this for your basic understanding so that you know how these numbers are used in an IP address by your device. Then we'll look at how to convert those decimals into binary. Then we will look at the key terms in IP address. What is the meaning of a bit? What is network prefix? What is octet? And what is host identifier? Let me share my screen and show you a little revision on what we have already discussed in this lesson. So, on my previous video, I explained how you will be able to identify your IP address. In most of my videos, I explain how the DHCP assigns an IP address to the devices that are connected on the network. If you ever miss any of these lessons, you can watch the videos on my YouTube channel to understand how the DHCP assigns an IP address. The previous video, I showed you how to discover your IP address, and I'll revise a little bit about it, then I'll continue to today's lesson. Here on my whiteboard or in the classroom, I explained that if you want to check your IP address on your iPhone, you go to Settings, and from Settings, you go to the Wi-Fi. And when you go to Wi-Fi, you see the ActiveNet Wi-Fi network to be like this. You tap the information icon which is next to the active Wi-Fi on your iPhone after the padlock. And after the padlock, you see the active Wi-Fi network just close to your padlock. Then, after the padlock, you see the information button here. So what you do is you click on this information button, and it will display the information of your Wi-Fi. Then, when you get this information, you scroll down, and you go to the place where they said IP address on your iPhone or the configuration IP. If you go to the configuration IP, you will see a place where they're written automatic. Now, another configuration IP, you'll see another part which says IP address. And on your phone, you'll be able to discover your IP address, which is on your right-hand side of the IP address under the configuration IP. So, after the automatic, you see the IP address of your phone that is connected to the network. And it is the DHCP which has assigned this IP address to you. If you don't know how the DHCP works, watch my previous video. I've explained everything over there. How the DHCP assigns the IP address, either automatic. You can also assign it manually. I've explained all this in my previous video where you can go there and watch on this YouTube channel. Then, after you see your IP address, you see the subnet mask, which I will explain in one of my videos very soon. Then you see the router IP address, the router that has assigned the IP address to you through the DHCP. You see the router's IP address as well on your phone. So on your iPhone, this is how, or these are the steps that you can use to get to know your IP address. What about if you are using an Android? If you're using an Android, you still go to Settings on your Android phone. Then you go to Wi-Fi. Then you click on the connected network like the way you did on the iPhone. So when you click on the connected network, go to Advanced. If you go to Advise, you get to the place where they say See IP. Then you'll be able to discover your IP address on your Android phone as well. I've done all these demo in my previous videos where you can go there to my YouTube channel. And then you'll be able to identify all these steps, one after the other, on the previous videos I've done. So on phone, this how you see. Now what about if you want to check your IP address directly on your machine? How do you do it? Or on your device? Apart from phone, how do you do it on your laptop? Let me share my screen and demonstrate that one to you before today's lesson. Alright, welcome. This is my Windows 10. This is my Windows 10. How would I be able to identify my IP address on this Windows 10? If it is Windows 11, you can also follow these steps. To discover your IP address on a Windows 10, there are two ways. Let me explain. Go to the search button and type CMD, which is the command prompt. Press enter, and it will open this command prompt for you. When you get to this part, type IP config as I did in my previous video. You can go back and watch and see how I did it. And if you press IP config and you type IP config, this what you see. So you can see my IP address is here, which I've been able to discover it here with the subnet mask and then the default gateway, which is already hidden. And this is the IP version 6. And then this is IP version 4. So I've explained all this in my previous video where you can go there and watch and revise how the IP address has been well explained over there. So this is how you can discover your IP address, which has been assigned by the DHCP automatically after it was connected to the router. Alright, so this is how you get your IP address. The second part is you can come to the Start button under your window icon, or choose the Windows Start button in Windows 10. Then you go to Settings. When you go to Settings, go to the Network and Internet. Click on Network and Internet. Go to the Properties. Click on the Properties, and over here too, you can discover your IP address. And this is my IP address. So you see the IP address here on this button here. So this is my IP address, and this is the second step, or the second way you can discover your IP address directly on your device. Alright, so these are the ways you can identify it if you want to find your IP address. Alright, now let's move on. You can also discover your IP address online, as I said, by using the network MRT, or you can go to your browser. If you go to your browser and then you type, what is my IP? It will be able to discover or show your IP address as well. Okay. So in my previous lesson, I explained how the IP address is assigned, and I explained that the IP address, in an analogy, we can compare the IP address to a postal address. So if you take your postal address, we have the country that we are talking about. We talk about the state, we talk about the city, we talk about the street, and then we talk about the house number. That is how we write our postal address: the country, the state, the city, the street, and then the house number. The same thing applies to IP addresses. As I said earlier on, the IP address can be divided into two. It has two parts. This is the network part, and this is the host or the device that is connecting to the network. So as soon as the device is connected to this network, the DHCP assigns a unique digital address to that device to make the device identical or unique among all the millions of devices that are on the network. So in order for your device to be identified easily, this IP address is the only IP address that is assigned to all the devices that are connected on the network. And the 18 here, as you are seeing, is the ID or the host ID as it is connected on this network. So you see, anytime you see an IP address, the last octet would tell you the device number as it has joining or as it has joined the particular network. 2. IP address can be linked to a poster address. On this matter, now breaking down the IP address, as I said earlier on, if you see 192, it's telling you the state or the major network region. That is the first part, so every IP address has 4 parts. The first part would tell you the state or the major region or network where it is connected to. The second part would tell you the town or the sub-network. So if you have a bigger network like this, the sub-network would be like this. So part of the network which you are belonging to. Then the third part is the neighborhood or the local network segment. So if we take this but out of the region, then we are going to get the neighborhood, which is the local network that you are using. And then the last one, which is the 18, would tell you the house or the individual device which is connected to the local network. Remember that your device would be the last octet of the IP addresses. I will explain all these terms for you as we dive deep now. So each section has the routers to determine exactly where to send a particular data, and narrowing down from the broad network, which is the bigger one here, the bigger one here, to the specific device. So from the broader network to the specific device, the router will be able to track the path in which the data or the resources are supposed to be shared so that the data can never be lost as it moves along the path from the bigger network to the device that is connected to the bigger network. Now let's look at what is behind the numbers. And that is the binary language. IP addresses might look like irregular numbers, but they are actually representing something called the binary code. So the language of computers is called the binary code. What is binary? We will look at these terms and then we come back to this lesson. So, when we talk about binary, we are talking about two things. So, here, if look at these terms in an IP address, we call something the bits. The smallest unit of data is always called bits. So if you take a data as a whole, the smallest unit of that data is called bit, and it is measured as 0 or 1. And every IP address now has what is called 32 bits. Contain individual binary digits. So when we talk about binary, as we all attended high school, we did what's called a binary operation. And we used 2, meaning binary. And it's either 0 or 1. So, in our high school or in elementary school, or in high school, we're taught about binary operation. Remember this topic because we are going to use in our IP address calculations. Now, this term here, network prefix, that we are going to see is the portion of the IP address that identifies the network, like the CD in the poster address. So when you talk about a network prefix, if you have the IP address 192.168.72. Let's say 25, or let's say, yes, this part would be the network prefix, and is the portion of the IP address that identifies the network. And this part is the host. So when you talk about the network prefix, we are talking about the portion of the IP address that represents the network. You hear the term octet in our calculation that we are going to do. When you talk about octet, is a group of 8 bits. So when you talk about bits, we are talking about this, 1. So a group of 8 bit or 8 ones are called bit. So when we talk about a group of 8 bits, we call it an octet. So a group of 8 bits is called an octet. So if I have 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So when you talk about octet, we are referring to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So if we have 8 bits, we call it octet. And that is the maximum amount or the portion, the highest and the biggest amount of the part of the network that can be used, or that is the maximum that it can accept. Only 8 bits. So every part of the IP address contained in 8 bits. We will come to that and I will explain why. But in all, we will have 8 bit as 1 octet. So the IP address will be having 4 different parts. The first part is 8 bits, 8-bit, 8-bit, and another 8-bit. And we will do a calculation on all this. I will come to this part as the lesson goes on. So the portion that identifies the specific device with the network is called the host identifier. The network prefix is the network part, and the host identifier is the last part of the IP address. If you understand this, then we can dive deep now. Now that you understand binary, which is the language in which computers speak, let's look at what is behind this IP address that you are seeing, or the IP addresses that you have been seeing. Each decimal number that is 0 up to 255. I will explain why we have 0 up to 255. In an IP address, represent 8 bits of a binary data. Now, look at this. I'm going to use this to explain to you why we have each decimal number is from 0 up to 255. Now, we have the minimum part of the IP address, and then we have the maximum part of an IP address. Now, the minimum part is from 0, and then the maximum part is up to n-1. Based on this, this is the minimum part of the IP address, and the maximum part is always n-1. How do you do this? You remember that we use a formula in the form of 2 or base 2. If I have 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, like this, 8 beats, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. In our high school, we know that this is 0. This would be 1. This would be 2. This is 3, 4, 5, 6, and then 7. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And this is the 8 bits. Now we are going to change this to decimal. And you can remember from 0 up to the 255. This is the maximum. And this is the minimum. All the IP addresses that you have been seeing. So if you see this IP address here, 191.168.5.18, the IP address begins from 0 up to 255. It cannot go beyond 255. That is the space that it can goes. So see any IP address that comes with 256, it would be a wrong IP address. So if I write an IP address like this, 192.168.153. Let's say 173. And then I also write 192.156.275.2. These two types of IP address, which one is wrong? I know you select this because the IP address has a maximum space more than as it can occupy. So the IP address should, and the maximum should be 255, and the IP address thus is written like this, or any of the IP address that you see any part of the octet which is more than 255, and you even see 256 or 255.5 is wrong. It's not a correct IP address. The maximum length or the maximum space, the maximum bit is 255. Good. So now that you know the minimum and the maximum, how did we get this 255? And that's what I'm going to explain to you now. As I said, the language that computers speak is binary. And binaries are our zeros and then the ones. So if you take every part of the IP address, like as I've written here, this part contains 8 ones, 8 ones, 8 ones, 8 ones. The minimum part can also take 8 zeros, a zeros, a zeros, a zeros. But since we don't use the minimum part, which is the 0 zeros, we normally concentrate from 1 onwards up to 255. If you see any IP address, it means the first part can take how many bits? 8. Apart from 8 bits, it can go beyond 8 bits. What you see here can be converted into binary. And the part of the IP addresses, as I said, every part contains 8 bits. Therefore, if we have 8 times 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. we are going to get 32 bits. So the maximum bits in IPv4 is 32 bits. There are two versions of IP addresses. We have the IPv6 and then IPv4. IPv6 is 128 bits and IPv4 is 32 bits. Today we are concentrating on IPv4, which is how many maximum bits it can occupy. 32-bit because we have 32 divided by 8, and then we have 4 different parts of the IP addresses. So 1, 2, 3, 4 will give you all this. Now let's come back to how we discovered the 2FAR5. You remember, as I explained here, that every part of the IP address contains 8 bits. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then another would take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So this is 8-bit of the IP address part. 8-bit of the IP address part. Another 8-bit of the IP address. Another 8-bit. So this IP address that I've written here, 192.168.151.173. Each octet here represents 8-bit. How did we get the 2FAR5? So if I pick 8 bits, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, which is the first part, I can convert this to decimal. This is binary. In order for you to do this, you have to change binary to decimal. And that's what we are going to do. Now let's start. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. In order for you to change binary to decimal, you remember in high school, we have to rate them or start counting from the right to the left. We count them like this as we go. This is 0. This is 1. This is 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then 7. So we have 0 up toward 7, because 0 has taken the portion of 1, 1 has taken the place of 2, 2 has taken the place of 3. So we'll end up 7. But when we are counting, it's 8 bits here. So now we are going to convert from the binary to decimal. And as we did in high school, we start with the first figure here is 1. So 1 times 2 to the power exponent 7 plus 1 times 2 to the power 6 or exponent 6 plus 1 times 2 exponent hold 5 plus 1 times 2 exponents 4 as 1 times 2 exponents 3 plus 1 times 2 exponent 2 or x1 times 2 exponents ln. This 1 times 2 exponent 0. So we have combined all this. You converted all of them. Now it's done. As we did in high school, you know, 2 exponent 7 means 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That is the mean of the exponent 7. And what is 2 exponent 7? 2 times 2 is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. 8 times 2 is 16. 18 times 2 is 32. 22 times 2 is 64. 64 times 2 is what? So 128. So you put 128 here. Plus, let me teach you analogy for the magic. Since I'm the magic, I will teach you the magic now. Now, this is the secret. So if I divide 128 by 2, I'm going to get 64. That's a magic I've been teaching my students. when I was teaching high school. And that's why the children call me Say Magic. Now 2x put in 5 divide 64 by 2. It will give you 2x put in 5. And that one will give you what? 32. 2x put in 4 divide 32 by 2. It will give you 2x put in 4. And that one is 16. Divide 16 into 2. It will give you 2s squared and 3. And that will give you what? 8. Divide 8 into 2. Divide 4 into 2. It will give you what? 2. And divide 2 into 2. It will give you 1. That is why any number as point in 0 is 1. Add all this. 128 plus 64 plus 2 plus 32 plus 16 plus 8 plus 4 plus 2 and then plus 1 will give you 256. But we are having 255. That is this. Why do we get 2 faces and 2 5f? The maximum part of the IP address is always n-1. That is the formula. So, the n is the number that you get -1. So, when we add all of this from the equation or from the expression here, we are going to get 256 -1, where n is the number of the bits that we converted to the decimal. 256 minus 1 give you 255. This is why every IP address, the maximum part, is 255. If you read this, change 0 bit into binary or into decimal, you are going to get 0 because everything will give you 0, 0. That's why we still have 0 up to 255. This is the analogy behind the IP address that you have been seeing, and I would do more for you to understand this. First, we are doing only 255. Now, why do we have 32-bit? You remember that I said when you divide the IP address into binary, we are going to get 4 different parts. So if you add all these binaries, it will give you what? 32. That is why the maximum bit of IP address in IP version 4 is 32 bits, as you can see here. So the total of all the bits will give you 32, because 4, 8 plus 8 is 16, and then 24, and then 32, and that will be the maximum bit, or digit, binary digit for IP version 4. The binary digit for IP version 6 is 128. Let's dive deep. Good. Now, we are going to convert some customer also to binary, which is another way of writing the IP address. Let's see how we can convert 1921 into binary. So you may have an IP address like this. And this is not how the device understands the IP address. I said computers speak only binary languages. So if you write 191 for a computer or you type 191, the device sees it to be like this. It sees it to be like it's originally. Or it's convert the 1 into 1 into binary so that it can read for other devices to understand. So how do we get this? Let me explain and teach you the magic for getting all this. Let's convert 191 to binary. This is how we do it. You first write 2 because we are using 2. And then you write the value here, which is 191. Then you put the remainder here. Do you remember we did long division in high school or elementary? So you divide 1 and 1 by 2. What do you get? So fifth, less 2 divide. Let's 19 be divided by 2. We are going to get 9, which is 18. And then remainder 1. So we are going to get 11. 11 divide by 2. So 11 divide by 2. We are going to get 5. Remainder 1. Good. Divide 95 also by 2. 2 goes into 9 is 4, which is H remainder 1. And then 2 goes into 15, would be what? 7, which would give you 14. Remainder what? 1. Continue on dividing. 2 goes into 47. 2 goes into 4 is 2. 2 goes into 7 is 3, which is 6. Remainder 1. 47 divided by 2 is 23. Remainder 1. The next one. 23 divided by 2. What do we get? 2 goes into 2 is 1. 2 goes into 3 is also 1. Then remainder what's 1? Then we still divide. We have 11. 2 divided by 11 divide by 2. 11 divide by 2. We are going to get 5. Remainder what? 1. Still divide by 2. 5 divide by 2 is 2. Remainder 1. 1. And then 2 divide by 2 is 1. Remainder 0. And then the last one, 1 divide by 2, it can be possible. So is 0. Remember 1. In writing or changing from decimal to binary, we turn it upside up. We start writing from the bottom to the top. So we start counting from the bottom to the top. So we get 1. The next one will behold 0. And this is 1. This also 1. And 1. Here is 1. And another 1. And the last one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then we have the 0. And then 1. This is equal to 191. If you have an IP address which have 191, the device knows 101111111. It doesn't know this, but you would see it to be 191. But in the memory of the computer, the processor sees it and process the 191 in the form of binary, which will be 1011111. You can also convert this. We've converted this to this. You can also convert this back to decimal using the previous lesson that I gave you. So in order for you to do this, you can also do it this way. You can start like this: 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then 7. And then you use the formula that I showed you. That is 1 times 2 exponent 7 plus the same thing 0 times 2 exponent 6, and then 1 times 2 exponent 5, and then 1 times 2 exponent 4, and then 1 times 2 exponent 3, plus 1 times 2 S1 and 2, plus 1 times 2 S1 into 1, and then you have 1 times 2 S1 and 0. So you can use this. And when you add OR, like the way I showed you in the previous lesson, you get 191. For time's sake, you can do this and see if you can get the same value. 38 can also be converted or is converted to 001. How did we get this? It's the same procedure that I've done here. So if you pick 38 and you divide by 2 with the remainder, we are having 2 goes into 3 is 1, remainder 1 making 18. 2 goes into 18 as 9, perimeter 0. 2 goes into 19 would be what? 9. Which would give you 18, remainder 1. Now 2 goes into 9 would be what? 4, remainder 1. 2 goes into 4 would be what? 2, remainder 0. We continue. Then 2 goes into 2 would be 1, remainder 0. And then 2 goes into 1 cannot be possible, so it would be 0, remainder dot 1. How do you write this? Here, the last one that we get here is 1, 0, 0, 1, 1, 0. So we have the IP address here. The binary side, the remainder, is 1, 0, 0, 1, 1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But remember that we said it should be 8. So as the Desma NC or the binary NC, we represent the rest part or the rest of the other part to be zeros because our Desma or our remainder got finished. So anytime you are dividing, whatever that you end, you write the remainder of the zeros to be part of the IP address that you are converting. So that is what I've done here. So you will see that 38 converting into binary will give you 0, 0, and then 1 where we ended 38, and then 0, 0, then 1, 1, and then 0. So this is how we have converted the 38 also into binary. You can do this and continue and continue and continue with any IP address that you see. So if I'm trying to give you one, if I ask you to write 194 to binary as an IP address, how will you do this? Try this and let's see what you will get. And that is what we have done all here and here. So 15 will end here as they've done over there. So if you take 15 and then you are dividing 15 with 2, remember that 2 goes into 15 is 7, remainder root 1. Then 2 goes into 7 is 3, remainder 1. And 2 goes into 3 is 1, remainder 1. And 2 goes into 1, it's kind of be possible, so is 0, remainder how to 1. We are going to end here. So if we are writing from the bottom, we are going to get 1, 1, 1, 1. That is where the 15 ended. But remember that we have got the bit side, which is the 1, 1, 1. What about the zeros? So the remainder of the IP address, to make it a complete bit in the octet, should be represented by 4 zeros. That is why we have 0, 0, 0, 0, and then 1, 1, 1, 1 for the IP address 15. And that's what has been done to all of this. So you can try this and see how it works. That is the magic behind IP addresses. You can be given an IP address in the form of binary, but you can convert it into a decimal using this idea. If I give you an example, like if you have an IP address like 12.0.156.255, you can write all this IP address in binary. Very easy, by dividing it like the way I've done here, and then you see that you get the IP address to be in the form of binary like this. If you find this video very useful, subscribe, and then share it with someone. This is the idea and the secret behind binary. Alright, so now you've got to know how to convert binary to decimal, and also from decimal also toward binary. And have I explained all this? And this is the analogy or the magic behind the IP addresses that you are being seen. This is how I've explained the IP address in a mathematical way, where you've seen the magic behind every IP address. And I hope you are enjoying this lesson very well. I will surely, and very soon, I will do another video on ICE of IP addresses. We have looked at the versions, the IP version 4, which has 32 bits, and then IP version 6, which up 128-bit. So we'll be looking at types of IP version 4. And then we'll use this idea, and this might matters where you've understood. If you're still following me, and then you like this lesson, subscribe to my channel and get more videos on how I'll explain every concept, the doubt, and clear the puzzle behind the scene. If you check your IP address, and then you see your IP address, you should be able to convert that IP address into binary. Example, like the way I converted my own IP address, I showed it to you. Check your IP address on your phone and convert all the IP address to binary. Check it on your device and convert all the IP address to binary, and then you will understand how this IP address is being written for you to see. Alright, subscribe to my channel and also share this video with anyone whom you think you can help, you can assist, you can guide, and then you can bless the person with this lesson. Let's dive deep as more lessons comes upon you on this channel, Cyber Deep Dive, where your data will never sleep.